Transportation Command will pay special tribute to Vice Admiral D. Mewbourne on the occasion of his retirement from the United States Navy after 40 years of dedicated service to our country. My name is Major Alexis Jackson, and I will be your narrator. The presiding officer for today's ceremony is the Commander, United States Transportation Command, General Chaplain Van Ovos. At this time, we would like to recognize our distinguished guests. Please hold your applause until all guests are introduced. General Van Ovos' husband, Alan Frosch. Vice Admiral Mewbourne's wife, Carrie Mewbourne. Their son, Hunter Mewbourne, and his wife, Bridget, with their children, Everly and Ella. Their daughter, Meredith DePrado, and her husband, Lieutenant Commander R.J. DePrado, with their children, Gwendolyn, Freya, and Josephine. Their son, Connor Mewbourne. His sister-in-law, Dr. Christina Olfson, and her husband, Dr. Jim Wayman. Vice Admiral Mewbourne's friends, Commander Mike Borash, United States Navy, retired, and his wife, Kate. Commander Bill Catfish Davis, United States Navy, retired. And Scott Leftwich. Joining us remotely, his mother-in-law, Donna Olfson, his sister and brother-in-law, Anna and Scott Elias, with their daughter, Kayla. His sister-in-law, Susie Olfson, with her daughter, Maddie. We would also like to welcome the Commander, Air Mobility Command, General Michael Minahan, and his wife, Ashley. The Deputy Commander, Air Mobility Command, Lieutenant General Randall Reed, and his wife, Lynn. The incoming Deputy Commander, United States Transportation Command, Major General John Sullivan, and his wife, Jennifer. The United States Transportation Command Chief of Staff, Major General Vincent Barker, and his wife, Stephanie. The United States Transportation Command Senior Enlisted Leader, Fleet Master Chief Donald Myrick, and his wife, Giselle. The Commanding General, Surface Deployment and Distribution Command, Major General Heidi Hoyle, and her husband, Dr. Demetrius Cleotelis. The Commander, Military Sealift Command, Rear Admiral Mike Wetlaufer. The Commander, 375th Air Mobility Wing, Colonel Chris Robinson, and his wife, Stephanie. And all flag officers, general officers, senior executive service personnel, commanders, civic leaders, directors, senior enlisted leaders, industry partners, retirees, family, friends, and other special guests in attendance and online. In today's ceremony, we will be following the Navy's tradition of piping the side. It originated in the days of sailing ships from the way visiting captains and dignitaries arrived on board. Instead of climbing the ratlines, they were hoisted aboard in a jolly boat by sailors called the Side Party, a title shortened in time to the Side, then Side Boys. It was not uncommon for the commanding officer of a ship to order up a jolly boat. A crew of 8 strong backs, side boys, and bosun to send an old shipmate to his shore retirement home, never to sail on naval ships again. All hands on deck was passed. Speeches were made about great victories, battles fought upon the open sea, raging storms weathered, and voyages to distant and strange lands with port of calls only others dreamed about. Post the side boys. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the playing of honors, the national anthem, and the invocation. Vice Admiral, United States Navy, arriving. Transportation Command, arriving. Post the side boys. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the advancement of the colors, the national anthem, and the invocation. Present the colors. The invocation will now be offered by Chaplain Mark Sedgwick.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we give you all thanks and praise for the opportunity to celebrate and commemorate the distinguished career of your servant, Vice Admiral Dee Mewbourne, this morning in front of this assembly of family, friends, and colleagues. The quantity of this assembly of family, friends, and colleagues is surpassed substantially by the quality of those in attendance. Our audience today comprises the very best that our nation has to offer, and they are here today to honor a man who personifies the very best that our nation has to offer. While much of the nation's attention remains fixated on a fictional Navy hero portrayed by the actor Tom Cruise, we at USTRANSCOM don't need to worship a fictional Navy hero. Today we honor a real Navy hero. Vice Admiral Mewbourne hasn't just led us from the front, he has inspired us from the front. While some leaders provoke their followers to push them into the fire, your servant Dee has motivated us to follow him into and through the fire. Heavenly Father, when you granted me to have the privilege to dine with Admiral Mewbourne about a year ago, he told me two things that reveal his character in a way that even transcends a Navy career comparable in accomplishments to Nimitz, Halsey, and Spruance. Admiral Mewbourne told me that he couldn't give me his complete, undivided attention because he was anxiously awaiting the arrival of his daughter and grandchildren. He also told me that he had initially received an appointment to West Point, but when a high school friend could not get into Annapolis because of a medical condition, Admiral Mewbourne graciously accepted an appointment to the Naval Academy so that his friend could go to the U.S. Military Academy. What could possibly be more important in life than attaining the pay grade of Vice Admiral and excelling in a Navy career that included the command of aircraft carriers? For Vice Admiral Mewbourne, the answer is simple: being the husband of Carrie, being a father, and being a grandfather. And now, Heavenly Father, we humbly pray that you would grant your servant Dee with a blessed and peaceful retirement, replete with fair winds, following seas, and plenty of family time. As Vice Admiral Mewbourne goes ashore this morning, we pray that you would give him many more years of well-deserved enjoyment as a husband, father, grandfather, and friend to so many. And we pray all of these things in your most holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Sedgwick, for that beautiful invocation. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. At this time, you may also uncover. It is my honor to introduce the 14th Commander, United States Transportation Command, General Jacqueline Van Ovos. Ma'am, the floor is yours.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thanks, first off, to the tremendous team that made the event last night and today possible for us, especially Lieutenant Commander Dan Walker, our project officer, Captain Fraser Loria, our MC last night, and of course Major Alexis Jackson, our narrator today. To those here in person and those joining us virtually, welcome. I'm glad you could be with us today to celebrate a lifetime of remarkable service of Vice Admiral Mewbourne, his wife Carrie, and the Mewbourne family. Dee, Carrie, Meredith, Connor, Hunter. Wow, last night was incredible. We are one step closer to what marks the closing of one chapter and the start of another. One vastly different, but just as rewarding. While the shooter has given the signal to launch, I do want to take, again, a breath. Let's slow down and ensure that you're taking in all that today has to offer. Dee, it's truly an honor to be on deck with you here today, sharing in a moment that culminates this 40 years of service. It's quite an honor. I also have to thank the Mewbourne family for your unfailing devotion to husband, father, papa, naval officer, and to our nation. Dee and I agree that a successful career is marked by the lasting impact that we have on our successors. And in his wake, Dee's penchant for action, his incredible mind, and inspirational leadership left indelible impact on the lives of those he served with from the earliest days of his career till today. The examples are too numerous to recount, but what you'll consistently hear are his big ideas, his detailed planning, his meticulous execution, and the focus on the human element and leading teams through various challenges throughout his career. From his time as a plebe and a midshipman at the Naval Academy, all the way through his leadership as a decom, Dee has always had big ideas. A lot of people dream big, but Dee always found a way to make them reality. For example, he once borrowed Academy sailing gear so that he could rappel from the clock tower at Annapolis, Maryland, and used oil paint to place a Mickey Mouse face on the clock. Now, pulling off a stunt like that takes commitment and vision. Gutsiest move I ever saw. It was this same commitment to bringing ideas to life that allowed him to refine his role while working for the Secretary of Defense immediately after 9/11, and more recently to better prepare our mariners and fleet of logistics vessels for the contested environment. Young Dee's leadership was identified early on as the highly motivated midshipman Mewbourne earned one of the Naval Academy's most prestigious awards, the Carl Vinson Leadership Award, which essentially means that his roommate Lefty Leftwich probably took the fall for the clock incident. He carried this same drive into his early career, where his track record was illustrated through recognition of his leadership, of Dee's considerable talents across the scale. My personal favorite comment, of course, from his fit reps you heard last night was the claim that he could nail Jell-O to the wall, which he still has not done. But it must be true. Over his 40 years of service to the United States Navy, the Department of Defense, and our nation, he's routinely been the best of the best. His peers and commanders recognized his potential and made every effort to cultivate his already profound skills. A combat-proven aviator, instructor, test pilot school grad, he holds the rare distinction of commanding 3 nuclear aircraft carriers, the Eisenhower, the Enterprise, and the Truman, 2-time Carrier Strike Group commander, and has served as military assistance to the SecDef and the DepSecDef. It's obvious that he internalized the idea that there are no points for second place, somewhere that Dee Mewbourne couldn't navigate to if he tried. The same is true for his family life, because he somehow convinced Carrie to marry him. And let me tell you, he hit the jackpot there. Together, this power couple works to improve everything around them, to cultivate a connection with their assigned vessels, the crews, and the history of their namesake. Carrie and Dee adorned the hosting quarters with furniture tied to the heritage of the ship. With great care and devotion, they curated an atmosphere of respect for the storied past of the 3 carriers under Dee's command and gave the crew a common purpose to coalesce around. Through their diligence, the Mewbournes created teams that were ready to face contemporary challenges while never losing touch with their heritage. So now, it's time for a sea story. There he was, at 2 a.m, his crew still reeling after rescuing 2,700 non-combatant evacuees from Lebanon. Captain Mewbourne, commander of the USS Nashville, was stirred awake by the sailor's biggest nightmare, a fire at sea in the laundry room. With a million things running through his head, injuries, wind direction, water temperature, available materials, adjacent spaces, ventilation, he maintained a calm demeanor and directed his crew to general quarters. But he had trained for this. He had trained his crew for this. Wow. As an aircraft commander, there are a few things I feared more than a fire aboard my airplane. The tension and pressure on the CO must have been immense. But you kept your cool. Raging at over 1,000 degrees and melting everything inside the room and touching the floor above, the team he cultivated fearlessly fought the fire for 6 hours and kept it contained to one area on the ship. Laundry facilities destroyed, cables running through the room for things like steering demolished into ashes on the ground. Until they repaired everything, the 800-person crew would wash their clothes in the shower and hang them to dry on the deck. The crew felt like going on was no longer possible. But because of Dee's leadership and clear direction, they never quit. Because that was never an option. With new washers and dryers waiting for the crew, a new issue arose. One of the Nashville's engines overheated and prevented them from going into port on a single engine. Seeing this as unacceptable, he empowered the crew to seek alternate solutions. They fashioned fittings, spliced wires, and connected fire hoses to cool the engine so they could retrieve their cargo. Through all of these challenges, Lebanon Neo, fire, engine failure, the people under Dee's command needed leadership. But what made them successful was the inspirational example he set that empowered them to apply innovative solutions to complex problems. As Dee tells this story today, the lesson he offers is that people need to be led, but want to be inspired. Dee, you have been an inspiration your entire career. You have taught, mentored, and developed the Navy's next generation of leaders to prepare them for these demanding moments. You carried this same drive as the commander of the Naval Service Training Command, where you understood that for our country to maintain a competitive advantage, we must invest in our most precious resource, our people. When the CNO hired Dee at MSC, he charged him to put the military back into Military Sealift Command. You see, Dee's father was a mariner in World War II, a war where we proportionately lost more mariners than any other service due to the German Wolfpack submarines. This made an impact on Dee, and he was determined for MSC to recognize the challenges of contested sea lanes and work to safeguard the ship, to fight the ship. With unparalleled vision, Rear Admiral Mewbourne fundamentally shifted the direction of his command towards a warfighting mentality. His charismatic leadership, unequaled expertise, and sea stories, along with wise counsel, directly contributed to enhancing our capability to operate in this new strategic environment. His trusted and respected voice influenced those from DoD to Congress to industry partners. As the DCOM, he deliberately tended to the growth of these relationships across the globe. He made himself accessible to ensure transparency and that we remained oriented to a whole-of-government solution. As I always say, we move at the speed of trust. And one of the reasons we move so fast is because of Dee. His actions not only solidified the respect between our various organizations, it saved lives. After nearly 20 years of conflict in Afghanistan, he tackled the monumental task of a phased redeployment of forces. No sooner did we note the empty ramp at Bagram than we needed to begin the largest non-combatant evacuation in our history. Now, this man didn't sleep. He was the first one in and last one out. During the evacuation, our commercial carriers relied on him for communications. The reason so many industry partners answered the call was because of his work in laying that foundation of trust. His crosstalk and network of relationships made us successful. You know it. His level of detail and thoughtfulness is evident in everything he does. He cared about the people performing the mission, and because they worked countless hours around the globe, so did he. With great purpose and dedication, he set himself to the task of getting evacuees to safety by keeping that mobility machine going and operating at a level and capacity we had never seen. And I'll reiterate, I am willing to bet he cannot remember every bomb he dropped, but he will remember every life he saved. Vice Admiral Mewbourne has earned the respect and admiration of every individual he has interacted with. He stepped up in moments when our country and the Navy needed his leadership. It says, "Cometh the hour, cometh the man." That hour has come for Dee on multiple occasions, and it always found him ready. Dee inspires confidence in others to rise to the occasion, and he has the discipline to do yeoman's work every day. This man has energy like a nuclear reactor. Man, what keeps him going? Simple. His family. Each and every one of you, through the years and years of his service, has been his little nuclear reactor. He's renowned in TRANSCOM for his powerful leadership and mentorship sessions. He's hosted countless people at his quarters for mentoring lunches, coined deserving members throughout the command at Bravo Zulu events every Friday, and cultivated a loyal following with his leadership development series. As a strategic leader and thinker, he has almost a clairvoyant view of world events. Really, with incredible skill, he can rapidly discern the importance of seemingly non-connected information and predict the right moment where we need to apply resources to ensure what I call catastrophic success. So Dee, every day you had new challenges that were not on the horizon the day before. You said there's no training or professional development programs showing leaders how to be a deputy commander. But despite that, you've made me a better commander. And you've helped set the tone for the activities the command executes daily. Your reputation as the most thoughtful DCOM is validated. You are the finest officer and leader I have ever worked with, and I cherish all our moments together. There is no doubt, when our nation called, you delivered. May you always have fair winds and falling seas. Thanks for your 40 years of dedication and for being my wingman. Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand as General Van Ovos presents the Defense Distinguished Service Medal. Attention to orders. Citation to accompany the award of the Defense Distinguished Service Medal to Vice Admiral Dee L. Mewbourne. Vice Admiral Dee L. Mewbourne, United States Navy, distinguished himself by exceptionally distinguished service as Deputy Commander, United States Transportation Command, Scott Air Force Base, Illinois, from July 2019 to June 2022. As the Deputy Commander of a Global Combatant Command, Admiral Mewbourne directly contributed to the national security of the United States through exemplary leadership and unparalleled expertise, providing options to the nation. His respected voice shaped legislation, strategic defense policies, and commercial industry practices. His personal contact and genuine interest built trust and developed deep relationships with government and industry leaders. As a result of this diplomacy, the command maintained critical transportation locations, culminating in a position of strength for the global mobility enterprise. Admiral Mewbourne's warfighting focus helped champion sea lift recapitalization, air refueling and airlift capacity, cyber resiliency, digital modernization, and defense personal property relocation services reform. His leadership was pivotal to continuing operations through a global pandemic while ensuring mitigation measures were in place to protect the force. Admiral Mewbourne supported multiple complex retrograde efforts in Somalia and Afghanistan, to include the evacuation effort in Kabul, helping orchestrate the largest airlift evacuation in our nation's history. The distinctive accomplishments of Admiral Mewbourne culminate a long and distinguished career in the service of his country and reflect great credit upon himself, the United States Navy, the United States Transportation Command, and the Department of Defense. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the publishing of the retirement order. Attention to orders. CNO Order 0832, your request to be transferred to the retired list has been approved by the Secretary of Defense effective 1 August 2022. You will be transferred to the retired list in the grade of Vice Admiral, pay grade 09, pursuant to provisions of Title 10, United States Code, signed M. Gilday, Admiral, U.S. Navy, Chief of Naval Operations. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. General Van Ovos will now present Vice Admiral Mewbourne with the Presidential Certificate of Appreciation. It reads, I extend my personal gratitude and the sincere appreciation of a grateful nation for your patriotic service to our country. Your bravery and dedication in our armed forces help protect your fellow Americans during a critical moment in history and contributed to a world of greater security and growing prosperity. Your devotion to duty, honor, and country, in keeping with the long traditions of the finest military in the world, embody the American ideal of selfless service. Our nation owes you an incredible debt. Your commitment and the example you set will inspire future generations to serve with pride and to keep our country secure. You represent the best of our nation, and I join our fellow Americans in saluting your honorable service. I wish you happiness and success in your next chapter. Signed, Joseph R. Biden, Jr., Commander-in-Chief. Thank you, General Van Ovos and Vice Admiral Mewbourne. Vice Admiral Mewbourne has also received letters of congratulations from former Presidents Jimmy Carter, William Clinton, George W. Bush, and Donald Trump. In addition, he has congratulatory letters from the Secretary of Defense, Secretary of the Navy, Chief of Naval Operations, and Commander, United States Transportation Command. We will now present Vice Admiral Mewbourne with the United States flag. His retirement flag was flown over Tecumseh Court in front of Bancroft Hall at his alma mater, the United States Naval Academy, on May 26, 2022. The same hall that Midshipman Dee Mewbourne moved into 44 years ago as a new plebe and experienced what his class claims as the last real plebe summer. This flag was flown on this date in honor of his 40-year anniversary from his graduation from the United States Naval Academy and commissioning in the United States Navy. To mark the end of his 40 years and 6 years with the TRANSCOM family, the same flag was flown over U.S. Transportation Command on June 28th. Lieutenant Commander Daniel Walker will now read Old Glory. Flag detail, post.
I am the flag of the United States of America. My name is Old Glory. I fly atop the world's tallest buildings. I stand watch in America's halls of justice. I fly majestically over great institutions of learning. I stand guard with the greatest military power in the world. Look up and see me. I stand for peace, truth, honor, and justice. I stand for freedom. I am confident. I am arrogant. I am proud. And today I honor Vice Admiral Mewbourne and his family's 40 years of faithful service. When I am flown with my fellow banners, my head is a little higher, my colors a little truer. I bow to no one. I am recognized all over the world. I am worshiped, I am saluted, I am respected, I am revered. I am loved, I am feared. For more than 200 years, I have fought in every battle of every war. Gettysburg, Shiloh, Appomattox, San Juan Hill, trenches of France, the Argonne Forest, Anzio, Rome, the beaches of Normandy, the jungles of Guam, Okinawa, Tarawa, Japan, Korea, Vietnam, and the heat of the Persian Gulf, Libya, Iraq, Afghanistan, and a score of other places, long forgotten by all, but those who were with me. I was there. I led my soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. I followed them, and I watched over them. They loved me. I was on a small hill in Iwo Jima. I was dirty, battle-torn, and tired, but my sailors and Marines cheered me. I was proud. I was at Ground Zero in New York City on September 11th, as America was attacked. I was raised from the ashes of once proud buildings by brave firefighters, heroes who risked their lives to save others, showing all of America, while bloody, will never be beaten. Those who will destroy me cannot win. For I am the symbol of freedom, of one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I am strong. I have slipped the surely bonds of earth, and from my vantage point on the moon, I stand watch over the uncharted new frontiers of space. I have been the silent witness to all of America's finest hours. But my finest hour comes when I am torn in strips to be used as bandages for my wounded comrades on the field of battle, when I fly at half-mast to honor my soldiers, my airmen, my sailors, my Marines, and when I lie in the trembling arms of a grieving mother at the gravesite of her fallen son or daughter. I am proud. My name is Old Glory. Long may I wave, dear God, long may I wave.
Flag detail post. General Van Ovos and Vice Admiral Mewbourne will now recognize Mrs. Mewbourne. Mrs. Mewbourne, would you please join us on the stage? Every successful military member knows and understands the value of the contributions of his or her family to the member's career, especially the efforts of their spouse. General Van Ovos will now present Mrs. Mewbourne with a personal letter of congratulations, which reads, Carrie, Alan and I wanted to share our personal thanks for your dedicated support as a military spouse throughout Dee's 40 years of service to the U.S. Navy and our nation. Your untiring commitment to supporting Dee's service allowed him to lead and serve in an exceptional manner. We know this did not come without sacrifices, so we are especially grateful for your contributions and the endless number of families you graciously helped. Your legacy of selflessness, kindness, and consoling hug, or a supportive talk, will certainly be carried on by the next generation. On behalf of the USTRANSCOM staff, I want to personally thank you for providing your perspective, cheerful attitude, and when we needed it, a most delicious treat from home. You truly embody the role and character of the supportive and serving spouse. Best wishes to you and Dee for health and happiness in the coming years. Signed, Chaplain D. Van Ovos, General, United States Air Force. Above and beyond her role as a spouse, Mrs. Mewbourne has earned special recognition for her outstanding achievements in public service. Please stand as General Van Ovos presents the Department of Defense Medal for Distinguished Outstanding Public Service Award to Mrs. Carrie Mewbourne. Attention to orders. Citation to accompany the award of the Distinguished Public Service Medal to Carrie B. Mewbourne. Mrs. Carrie B. Mewbourne distinguished herself by superior public service through extraordinary contributions to the Department of Defense while serving by her husband's side at the United States Transportation Command from July 2019 to June 2022. During this period, Mrs. Mewbourne made significant and lasting contributions to the morale, warfare, and esprit de corps of 144,000 active duty, Guard, Reserve, and civilian personnel members and their families for the United States Transportation Command and its components and subordinate commands to include Military Surface Deployment and Distribution Command, the Military Sea Lift Command, the Air Mobility Command, the Joint Enabling Capabilities Command, and the Joint Transportation Reserve Unit. Through her unflinching commitment to the command's mission, Mrs. Mewbourne served as the ideal ambassador for the Department of Defense, hosting dignitaries, military leaders, and civic leaders from around the country. Additionally, she hosted over 100 social events to include weekly leader luncheons, spouse luncheons, holiday activities, and senior leadership events that developed and inspired over 500 people. Despite the COVID-19 pandemic, Mrs. Mewbourne ensured service members and their families were well cared for. Her personal commitment and support to the military community fostered an atmosphere supportive of family initiatives and positively impacted mission readiness. Finally, Mrs. Mewbourne's dedication to support Admiral Mewbourne's professional career and military families are in keeping with the finest traditions of public service. The distinctive accomplishments of Mrs. Mewbourne reflect great credit upon herself, United States Transportation Command, and the Department of Defense. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Would Hunter, Meredith, and Connor please join us on the stage? General Van Ovos will now present Hunter Mewbourne, Meredith DePrado, and Connor Mewbourne with special congratulatory letters and certificates of appreciation from the Navy element. Please accept my sincere appreciation for supporting your father throughout his United States Navy career. Your father has certainly achieved so much, but I clearly see his greatest pride resides with his family. We are grateful for Vice Admiral Mewbourne's dedicated service to our nation. The strength of our nation is our armed forces. The strength of our armed forces is our service members, and the strength of our service members is our military families. I recognize it was not just your father that served in each assignment over 40 years. You were serving alongside him and your mother in their service to our nation. My sincere congratulations to you, and I wish you all the best for the future. Sincerely, Chaplain D. Van Ovos, General, United States Air Force. Thank you, General Van Ovos. Now, it is my distinct honor and personal pleasure to introduce to you for the very first time, Vice Admiral Dee L. Mewbourne, United States Navy, retired.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Yeah, thank you. My granddaughters wanted to come and see me graduate today. I'm almost done graduating. You know, it's a bittersweet day. And that immediately brings back to a story, right? So I was taking command of the USS Nashville, and as we were walking up to the side boys, the admiral that was, officiating, he turns to the incumbent, the outgoing CO, and he says, "Denny, it's a bittersweet day." And without hesitation, Denny Watkins said, "Yeah, and I got the bitter," right? I do have some remarks here, and I'll try to get through these. And I say try because, there is an element of emotion. I do feel a lot more like graduation when it comes to the Navy. But leaving TRANSCOM is hard. And I would be the first one to say it. I tried to say it last night, too. I have become emotionally attached to this organization, and it's not just because of the mission, which I love, but because of the people. So I thought, today I would try to leave you maybe with one more story. I have enjoyed telling stories. Maybe some of you say it's the best thing I do, and probably not far off. So people forget facts, but they remember stories. Stories are powerful ways to convey meanings and values, to make sense of chaos, to help navigate uncharted waters. So this morning, rather than trying to wax eloquent about something certain to be forgotten, I decided to share with you what I consider to be an amazing story. The story is entitled My Naval Journey, and it's been 40 years in the writing. Like all good stories, it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. But don't worry, it's not a Greek tragedy. And while my story is no Top Gun, which we've referenced for the past few days, I'd say it does contain elements of danger and adventure, of drama and love, of laughter and sorrow. At the center of my story are incredible family members and friends and colleagues, teammates, crewmates, roommates, mentors, bosses, who supported my passion for service over self. I appreciate everyone who's here today, either presently or in person or virtually, to help me celebrate that. Unlike what you would read in a book, my story was not written by human hand, but by divine fate. Allow me to explain. When I look back on the major turns that were taken over a 40-year journey, I can honestly say that it was not me who selected the astonishing path leading to today. my career was not defined by walking through the doors I wanted, but by walking through the ones that were opened. Although my naval career started in Annapolis, my story begins in Daytona Beach, Florida. Growing up, my parents, Bob and Jean, my sister Anna, were supportive of the ambition I had since 5th grade to join the Navy. I can't explain my calling to service at such a young age. Some kids want to be doctors or firemen. I wanted to be a warship captain. Despite good grades and parental advice, I would not have been accepted to the Naval Academy if not for 2 auspicious interventions. The first was the chance meeting of Midshipman Justin Mostert. And the second, as mentioned by Chaps, was the overbite of my high school classmate Dan. Justin, he inspired and guided me to complete competitive applications to Annapolis, to West Point, to Coast Guard Academy, and I got into all 3. By the way, Justin's not here today, but remains a close friend and a mentor. Unfortunately, my high school classmate received Congressman Bill Chappell's nomination to Annapolis. That was the #1 choice for both of us, while I received the one to West Point, which was our #2 choice. Apparently, the Navy had a more stringent dental rules than the Army, so the congressman swapped the nominations, and I ended up joining the Navy class of 1982. Today, I'm the last member of that class standing in uniform. While at the Naval Academy, fate once again wrote pages of my story, beginning with the assignment of the 2 best roommates one could ever ask for, John Wardock, Scott Leftwich. They helped me to find my way, often despite my best efforts to get lost. Lefty, as was pointed out, is joining us today from Tennessee. I ask that you please don't ask him for any examples. I found my home on the sailing team, not because I knew the sport, but because my friend Pat Thurman invited me to try out. I became hooked on sailing that day, and together with our friend Bill Durr, Pat and I raced a yacht named Patriot in the Chesapeake and the Atlantic for 4 years. While competitively sailing, the lessons I learned about teamwork and endurance and controllable and uncontrollable forces, and most of all, winning, were essential to my standing here today. As I mentioned, I was drawn to Annapolis to become a warship captain. And sometime during my plebe summer, I first saw that now popular poster of the head-on view of a Nimitz-class carrier with the inscription, 4.5 acres of sovereign U.S. territory. And I said, man, I want to be the captain of that. The midshipman there, the upper class, said, well, you got to fly airplanes to be a captain of a carrier. And I said, okay, I'll fly. And in that sort of fateful exchange, my career was inscribed and my love for aviation was born. From that moment on, I wanted to be a naval aviator. This was long before Top Gun. Now I can, everybody does. But I wanted to pilot high-performance aircraft, jet aircraft, on and off the decks of aircraft carriers. I participated in the Academy's Aviation NDOC course, began working on my private pilot's license. I even took air navigation as an elective. All that remained was to pass the physical for pilot selection. But unfortunately, my right eye tested 2025 instead of 2020. And with that one incorrect letter, which I think is a G, an alternate door was open. But since naval flight officers could command carriers, I walked through it. The most happenstance encounter at Annapolis occurred in 1980 when I was randomly assigned a summer school instructor named Lieutenant Fred Bauer. Knowing I was on the sailing team, he invited me on a whim to participate in a local race on his family's sailboat. That's when I met Carrie. We were married 2 years later. So out of a chance invitation to sail came a wonderful family whose support has been instrumental to my naval career. That's crazy. I'd like to take just a minute to thank my family publicly. Carrie and I, we turned 40 years, our 40th anniversary is this coming summer. Thank you for all the love and support. To my oldest son, Hunter, his wife, Bree, to their daughters, Everly and Ella, and soon to be Elizabeth. Thank you, son. I appreciate everything over the years. Thank you. To Meredith, her husband, RJ, to their daughters, Gigi, Freya, and JoJo, thank you for just being there for me always. And to my youngest son, Connor, thank you, Bon. You know how much you mean to me. To Carrie's sister, Christina, thank you for being a sister all these years. Thank you. Her husband, Jim, thank you, guys. For my nieces, Kirsten, Haley, and Olivia, always being supportive. For our brother, Eric, right? And God rest his soul. They meant so much to me and us. His wife, Susie, their daughter, Maddie. To Sweet and Donna, our parents, and how much they meant to us, too. My mom and dad, my sister, Anna, her husband, Scott, and my other niece, Kayla. It's often said that behind every successful sailor, there's a strong Navy family. After 11 years, 6 months, and 26 days at sea, comprising 11 deployments, 13 household good moves, and 9 command tours, I would not be standing here without your love, your sacrifice, and your support. Thank you. The middle of my career was equally filled with propitious interventions. Let me give you just a couple of examples. During my initial A6 training, we lived in base housing, where we just happened to meet Dave and Leslie Anderson. They became lifelong friends and are here today from Nebraska. Thank you, guys. After initial A6 training, I asked to go to VA 35 for my first squadron tour. Instead, I was assigned to the Blue Blasters of VA 34. But because of that assignment, I participated in Operation El Dorado Canyon, the retaliatory strike on Libya in 1986, which propelled my career, quite honestly, taught me to control my fear, a skill that would save my life multiple times in the future. After test pilot school, I was assigned to the secretive A-12 program, and it was there that I met Lieutenant Commander, I think, maybe Lieutenant, Bill Catfish Davis, who remains my best friend to this day. Thank you, Bill. Leaving Pax River as Lieutenant Commander, I was drafted to go to the Sunday Punchers of VA 75. I had no choice in the matter, but in that squadron, Carrie and I met Mike and Kate Barash, who again have become lifelong friends. Thank you, guys. Also, I participated in Operations Northern Watch, Deny Flight, and I got my Officer of the Deck qualifications on John F. Kennedy, qualifications that I would rely on multiple times in the future to steer my 4 ships from danger. A proud member of the intruder community, I wanted to command an A6 squadron. But as luck would have it, the airplane's abrupt decommissioning schedule instead gave me the unique opportunity to serve as a Lieutenant Commander XO of VA 196, the Devils, and I got to fly the historic last flight of the intruder. You know, it was during this XO assignment in 1996 that I traveled a few days with the Air Wing Commander to liaise with our Air Force counterparts ashore. The digs were better, right? However, when we visited Dhahran, Saudi Arabia, we stayed one night at a facility called Khobar Towers. We were supposed to stay a second night, but with meetings completed and the early evening of 25 June, we departed for Bahrain. Shortly after we left, the building that we were supposed to stay in was decimated by a truck bomb that killed 19 and injured 498 others. With the decommissioning of the A6 aircraft, my friends and I were left without a community. For many, this marked the end of their careers. Thankfully, the EA6B community graciously selected me to transition to XO and CO of a squadron, where I commanded the VAQ 139 Cougars. Truth be told, I thought that I would transition to the F-14 community. I'd flown the Tomcat at Pax River, And I thought my tactical bombing knowledge, right, could benefit that community that was just getting into the air-to-ground business. Why was I selected for Prowlers, I thought? I think one answer really was night vision goggles. At that time, I was a night vision goggle instructor with the highest battery on time in the A6 community. The Prowler was not configured to fly with NVGs, nor was any plan to upgrade it. Through a kind of a series of controlled ground modifications using aircraft in our squadron, maybe not 100% legal, my team and I demonstrated, however, that this low-cost configuration is workable, and it ultimately led to the Prowler community getting NVGs. Missing in my career at this point were Pentagon and joint assignments. When my detailer nominated me to serve as the trip coordinator for then Secretary of Defense William Cohen, he told me that my odds of selection were low since I had never been to the building. It's probably true, except to my good fortune. The senior military assistant to SecDef was a former boss of mine, Vice Admiral Grog Johnson, who approved my placement. Around 9:30 on September the 11th, 2001, I was on my way to the Navy corridor in the Pentagon when a friend pulled me into his office to watch the televised coverage of the Twin Towers burning. 7 minutes later, American Flight 77 crashed into the west side of the building, and my intended destination was destroyed. Once again, fate spared my life. After successfully completing nuclear power training and a tour as the XO on George Washington, I was given command of my very first ship, the USS Nashville, an amphibious transport dock. We got underway for a 6-month deployment on 666, which should have been an omen. 1 month into deployment, Israeli forces aggressively responded to Hezbollah provocation, and Lebanon erupted in crisis. Nashville was at the southern tip of the Red Sea when Commodore Sink Harris, I hope you're listening, Sink, he called and issued mission-type orders reminiscent of the days of sail. He said, "D, proceed at flank speed to Beirut and deliver as many Americans as you can to safety." That was it, right? There was no multi-page document. There was no PowerPoint presentation. There was no confirmation brief. Just commander's intent, and I suppose the trust in me to execute. During 3 trips between Beirut and Cyprus, my crew and the embarked Marines, led by my good friend, Colonel Joel Berry, transported 2,706 Americans to safety. Anthony Bourdain and his film crew from No Reservations were among them. I've never felt a stronger sense of professional satisfaction, not even flying in combat. While some may say that Nashville was just the right ship at the right time, at the right place, I'd argue that once again the universe intervened. Because 16 years later, here at TRANSCOM, my experiences of the Lebanon NEO helped guide the largest aerial evacuation in history. If you Google, and some of you do, the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, you will see the ship's motto is greater each day. It connotes an organization that's committed to continuous improvement. When I assumed command of Ike in October 2007, the ship did not have a motto and was recently selected as the best aircraft carrier in the fleet. She had earned tons of accolades and received enormous praise for her professional performance. And I remember thinking to myself, I have nowhere to lead this ship but down. But once again, Kismet intervened. I had just recently completed Greenbelt training, and I was sold on the power of continuous improvement, of making excellence a journey and not just a destination. So I led the implementation of what I consider to be key programs like leadership development training, root cause analysis, data-driven decision-making, and formalized continuous process improvement. Ike was a great ship, but I argued that we shouldn't just be great, we should be greater each day. 15 years later, I'm proud of the fact that Ike is still pursuing excellence. Now, it's a rarity among naval aviators to command a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. In fact, there's been more astronauts. So you can imagine my surprise when Admiral John Harvey called me on the afternoon of 3 January of 2011 and asked if I would lead the crew of USS Enterprise on a 7-month combat deployment that began in 9 days. For context, the incumbent CO of Enterprise was relieved of command suddenly. I had just completed 2 back-to-back deployments on Ike. I missed Hunter's college graduation, all 3 kids' birthdays twice, and taking command of Big E meant that I would miss their birthdays for a 3rd consecutive year, and I'd also miss Connor's graduation from high school. So when I conferred with my family, they enthusiastically, though, endorsed this opportunity. I responded back to Admiral Harvey, "Play me, Coach." And just like that, a new door was open. A few months after that Enterprise deployment, the CO of Harry S. Truman died suddenly of a heart attack. I was on shore duty at the time, just as fortune would have it, and I was available to immediately take command. So when that tour was over, I had spent a total of 52 months in command of those 3 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers, and I had sailed enough miles to circumnavigate the world 4 times. I also had the opportunity to engage with heads of state, with royalty, elected officials, military and business leaders, singers, Hollywood elite, college coaches, academia, pioneers. In fact, just to give you one example, I've only held astronaut wings once in my entire life, and I pinned them on Neil Armstrong. One could say that's not bad for a kid from Daytona Beach who chased his dream based on a poster. But now you all know the truth. I was guided by fate. And while this command experience was unprecedented in naval history, the cost to my family was enormous. That's why I'm forever grateful for their unflappable support. Carrier command led to admiral selection and some incredible tours that were once again woven together into a fantastic tapestry. For my first assignment, flag assignment, I asked to go work on the Navy staff. Instead, I was given Naval Service Training Command, where I learned to think at the executive level. It's also sparked my interest in leadership and learning and organization, which is now my doctoral field of study at Vanderbilt. Next I asked to command an East Coast carrier strike group. Instead, I was assigned one to the Pac Northwest. But because of my location, I got to command 2 carrier strike groups simultaneously. For my 3rd assignment, there was no choice. I was assigned as the Director of Maritime Operations at U.S. Fleet Forces Command, working for Admiral Phil Davidson. But it was because of what I learned under his tutelage about the operational level command that I was successful in the next assignment of Military Sealift Command. When I remember when Admiral Davidson told me I was going to MSC, I literally fell off my chair. I said, "What?" I didn't say this aloud, it was my inside voice, but I said, "Hey, I'm an aviator, right? That's for SWOs." When I asked him, and I took a little bit of nerve, but I asked him, "Why me?" He said because he needed me to lead change. He said the Navy is preparing for great power competition, and MSC must be prepared to support a Navy at war. It turns out MSC was the perfect fit. I love the mission and the people, like Senior Chief Allison Salzman and Shane Riley sitting next to her. You guys are awesome. Thank you for being here. And I love the challenge to bend the curve of capability to remain relevant in the face of rapidly changing operational environment. We adopted the mantra, "United we sail," and we work together to make substantive and lasting improvements and breakthrough innovations that will keep MSC ready to support joint maritime operations in peace and in war. And it was this work that caught the eye of General Steve Lyons, prompted my selection to serve here as the deputy. And that brings me to the end of this story. Working at TRANSCOM for the last 3 years with this amazing, talented, hardworking teammates who care deeply about our mission. The TRANSCOM motto, "Together we deliver," means more than 3 simple words. It is a belief held by every member of this command that through teamwork and perseverance, we will prevail. I've watched this team overcome seemingly impossible challenges, yet time and time again, they found a way to accomplish the mission. I especially want to recognize some of the people who greatly impacted my tenure. Generals Darren McDew, Steve Lyons, and you, ma'am. Chiefs of Staff Deb Katulich, Vince Barker. My secretary, Barb Reynolds. My XOs, Jeremy Reeves, Jeff Katulich, Zach Starbuck Hall, Carrie Fleming. My EAs, Lisa, Kelly, and Angie, and aide-de-camps, Kayla, John, and Christina, and Petty Officer Amber Hightower, RCS. I've got to thank all the component commanders for just the amazing support, the mentorship that you've given me. All the directors, the general officers, the flag officers, the SESs, all the base leadership, thank you for the support. The leadership of our many industry partners for their mentorship, their collegiality, and also I want to say a special shout out to the Strategic Sea Lift Officer community for what you've taught me. You've given me far more than I've given you guys. God bless you. I want to thank also the people who made this ceremony possible. Boss, thanks for presiding. Vince, thank you for making the staff available and everything you've done. As was mentioned, Dan Walker, I'll never be able to repay you. I hope it gets paid forward. For Nick Adema, for Jason Howell, Alexis, thank you for your narration, perfect. For Oz, for the production, for Zach and the CAG team, for Sergio, the protocol, for Chaps, for his great but over-the-top prayer. For the band of Mid-America, thank you guys. You always sound great. For the security in the back, keeping us safe. For Scott Ross for streaming this event. For for Augustin for coordinating the color guard. For Petty Officer Proctor and Walton for proffers. For Brian Curry and the side boys, and for the entire flag detail. Thank you guys. So I'm almost done. If you guys know, I try to tell a story and then there's usually something at the end. So what can be learned from my 40-year story? Mark Twain once said that the 2 most important days in your life are the day that you're born and the day that you find out why. That means if Mark Twain is right, then we each have a calling to apply our own unique talents. But I found that the path to that enlightenment is not straight or predictable. It twists and it turns in fantastic ways. In my own life, I was called to serve, but that path that I predicted was nothing like the one I traveled, and it was so much better. I recognized early the role that God played in my career progression, and I learned to accept that when one door closed, another would open. I just needed to have the faith and the courage to walk through. And once on the other side, I needed to blossom where I was planted. That too was an invaluable lesson for life. Finally, I would say my story taught me to trust people, my family, my friends, my teammates, my shipmates. They say that trust is earned, and I say, while true, it's also given. I learned to quickly determine who was trustworthy and to take a leap of faith. In my experience, I was delighted far more than I was ever disappointed. And although my naval journey is over, I'm excited for a new story. It too will have a beginning, a middle, and an end. It will be filled with surprises and lessons I can't possibly predict. But regardless of where that path leads me, know that you all, the incredible TRANSCOM team will always have a special place in this sailor's heart. And to my Navy shipmates, wherever you may serve, I hope you remember that wearing this uniform is a great honor. With its wear comes a solemn duty to protect and defend our Constitution. Our national security depends upon your selflessly answering a higher calling, and our countrymen are counting on you to always succeed. So let go the braces, haul the halyard sheet home, and square the sail. Set your course for victory, and may you always have fair winds and following seas. Godspeed, and God bless. Thank you.
Thank you and congratulations, Vice Admiral Mewbourne. At this time, we would ask that you don your covers. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Vice Admiral Mewbourne's children, Hunter, Meredith, Connor, Bree, and Lieutenant Commander R.J. DePrado will now perform the reading of the watch.
Post the watch. In Navy tradition, 8 bells signifies the end of the watch. And for 40 years, this sailor, my dad, he has stood the watch. And while some of us, we've been in our bunks, he has stood the watch.
While some of us were in school learning our trade, this shipmate stood the watch. Yes, while even before some of us were born into this world, my father stood the watch.
In those years when the storm clouds of war were seen brewing on the horizon of history, this shipmate stood the watch. Many times he would cast an eye ashore and see his family standing there, needing his guidance and help, needing that hand to hold during those hard times, but he still stood the watch.
He stood the watch for over 40 years. He stood the watch so that we, our families, and our fellow countrymen could sleep soundly and safely each and every night, knowing that a sailor stood the watch.
Sir, I'm ready to relieve you.
Ready to be relieved.
Sir, the watch stands relieved by those you have led, guided, and trained. Vice Admiral Mewbourne, you are relieved. We have the watch.
Post the side boys. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand as we pipe Vice Admiral Mewbourne ashore for the final time. Vice Admiral, United States Navy, retired, departing. Navy family departing. Side boys, post. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's ceremony. Please allow the Mewbourne family and distinguished visitors to depart the ceremonial area, and then feel free to join us for the reception in honor of Vice Admiral Mewbourne and his family directly behind you. Thank you so much and have a great TRANSCOM day.